Step 1 Biochemistry lecture. In this lecture, we will talk about vitamin A. Vitamin A usually present in the form of retinoids and carotenoids. Alright. What are the forms of vitamin A? It is usually existing in two forms. One is the retinoids and another one is carotenoids. Retinoids are the active form and they are found in animal sources. How are they found? What are the forms? It is the retinol, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid. Whereas the carotenoids, these are present in the plants. These are the pro-vitamin A and they exist in the form of beta carotene. This is the most important form. Alpha carotene, gamma carotene and beta cryptoxanthin. Beta cryptoxanthin. And these are converted into active vitamin A in the body. Alright. But how does the conversion of carotenoids happen and where does it happen? This usually happens in the intestinal mucosa. And the enzyme needed is carotene dioxygenase. The important reaction we have to remember is the beta carotene converted to retinaldehyde to retinol. So remember, some of the carotenoids are not fully converted and some of the carotenoids circulate unchanged in the body and some are converted into retinoic acid directly. Vitamin A is usually needed for the vision. Alright, but where does it act? Obviously, the name itself mentions it acts on the retina. The key molecule which is acting is retinaldehyde. Alright. Why is vitamin A important for the vision? Because it acts on the photopigments. What are photopigments? Photopigments are the pigments which are helpful for the day vision and the night vision. The day vision is rhodopsin, that is rods, whereas the night vision it is iodopsin, that is cones. This is also helpful for color vision. Alright, now the important thing we will have to understand is all trans retinoic acid is converted to 11-cis-retinol. This 11-cis-retinol binds to opsin and forms rhodopsin, which is involved or essential for night vision. I might have mistaken, this is not day vision, this is night vision. Okay. Rods are important for night vision. But when does the rhodopsin helps in the night vision? What happens is whenever the light hits the 11-cis-retinol, it is converted to all trans-retinol. The conformational change in opsin happens and the activation of the phototransduction cascade happens. You don't need to go in the detail, but you'll have to just remember this. Because of the cascade that is happening, a nerve impulse is generated. Remember, the vision depends on 11-cis retinol. This is why most of the exams do test 11-cis retinol availability. If there is adequate 11-cis retinol availability, your night vision is much better. If there is no 11-cis retinol availability, your adaptation to the night is deficient. That causes delayed dark adaptation. Delayed dark adaptation that leads to night blindness. All right, now what is the active form of vitamin A? Active form of vitamin A, this is retinoic acid. Retinoic acid usually acts like a hormone. It binds to the nuclear receptors. This is what the examiners can ask you. Vitamin A, the active form is retinoic acid. It acts like a hormone and it binds to the nuclear receptors. What are the types of retinoic acid? One is the all trans retinoic acid. Another one is cis retinoic acid, that is 9-cis retinoic acid. What happens? The active part of the vitamin A, that is the retinoic acid, it binds to the receptors on the DNA and it regulates the transcription. It usually is attached in the major groove. You'll understand what major groove and minor groove if you have listened to my previous lectures. And this helps in the cell growth, differentiation and tissue development. That is why vitamin A is involved in epithelial growth. Now, there are some important things where clinical implications do happen if there is vitamin A deficiency. Vitamin A deficiency leads to night blindness. Vitamin A deficiency leads to decreased epithelial multiplication. Vitamin A also leads to vitamin D deficiency and deficient thyroid function. There is some important concept in order to understand why vitamin A deficiency leads to vitamin D and thyroid deficiency. Because the second form of vitamin A or active vitamin A, what is the second form of active vitamin A? 9-cis retinoic acid. This 9-cis retinoic acid forms heterodimers with vitamin D receptor and thyroid hormone receptor. So whenever there is vitamin A deficiency, there is deficiency of 9-cis retinoic acid, which is not able to form heterodimers with vitamin D receptor and thyroid hormone receptor. That is why vitamin A deficiency leads to impaired vitamin D production and thyroid hormone production. And vitamin A also helps in the differentiation of immune cells. Whenever there is vitamin A deficiency, there is impaired differentiation of immune cells that leads to impaired immunity, that leads to increased infections. All right. Vitamin A also acts as an acute phase protein. That is, the retinol binding protein decreases during infection. So, whenever there is infection, there is a decreased vitamin A transport. That is why whenever you are administering vitamin A, make sure that there is no infection to the patient. Also, there is one important infection where vitamin A is usually given in high doses, that is measles, which usually presents in the maculopapular rash all over the body. All right. Now, What are the earliest symptoms that are seen in vitamin A deficiency? Vitamin A deficiency leads to night blindness, that is nyctalopia, that is impaired dark adaptation. Progressive vitamin A deficiency leads to xerophthalmia. Advanced vitamin A deficiency also leads to Bitot spots. Most of the exams are testing you what exactly a Bitot spot is. Bitot spot is present in the conjunctiva, and these are the keratin debris and they are formed because of foamy conjunctival patches. There is also another condition called keratomalacia. Whenever you see keratomalacia, it is basically corneal softening. Alright. We've already seen that it is helpful for the epithelial cell multiplication. So whenever there is deficiency of vitamin A, the epithelial cell multiplication stops and it leads to dry skin. It leads to scaly skin. This is called as xerosis. Alright. What are the other effects that can be present in epithelial multiplication deficiency? Epithelial multiplication abnormalities whenever there is vitamin A deficiency. It can lead to squamous cell metaplasia. It can also lead to immunosuppression. Why is that? Because leads to deficiency of differentiation of immune suppression. Now, here comes the most important exam concept that is usually tested. What happens whenever there is vitamin A toxicity? Usually the examiner might be asking or talking about a young female patient, 23-year-old female patient presenting with worsening headache, nausea, vomiting. You'll have to think of pseudotumor cerebri. Or it is basically because of the raised intracranial pressure. On ophthalmoscopy, you will find that there is bilateral papilledema. It is basically because of the vitamin A toxicity. Sometimes the examiner can also talk about other conditions which can cause raised ICP. Tetracyclines, vitamin A. These are the two most important medications that can cause pseudotumor cerebri or raised idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Vitamin A toxicity is basically because of the excess intake of vitamin A and the free vitamin A which is present. It damages the cell membranes. So it leads to headache, nausea, vomiting, raised intracranial pressure. There are also other effects on other organs such as liver. What happens in the liver? It leads to hepatomegaly. It leads to hyperlipidemia. On the bones, what happens on the bones? It is the thickening of the long bones. And it leads to hypercalcemia. And you know why it is? Because it forms heterodimers with vitamin D. In the skin, it leads to dryness. It leads to excessive multiplication of the cells. So there is peeling of the skin that happens. Can vitamin A be taken during pregnancy? No, it must not be taken because it has an action of teratogenicity. Alright. The vitamin A excess usually is teratogenic and it can lead to congenital deficits, the cleft palate, and cardiac abnormalities as well. What is the important drug that is associated with teratogenicity in pregnancy? The examiner can tell you that a 26-year-old female patient presented to the clinic because of problems with acne. She has missed her menstrual periods last month. Which of the following must not be given? Or which of the following is teratogenic? Which of the following should be done? The counseling should be done. You must make sure that isotretinoin must not be given, because isotretinoin is used for severe acne. It is teratogenic and pregnancy must be avoided. If you are using isotretinoin in female patients, you will have to make sure that there is two types of contraceptive methods that must be used. It is to make sure that the pregnancy must be avoided. All right. One important question the examiner wants you to know is which of the following leukemia, in which of the following leukemia vitamin A is used? It is the acute promyelocytic leukemia, where the retinoic acid, that is the all trans retinoic acid, is used for the treatment. All right. This is all about vitamin A. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next podcast.